Episode 52 of the Habs Culture Podcast. My name is Mark Anthony Bertaja. I'm alongside Justin Schwartz. Today we're going to cover a good amount of topics here. To begin, the Canadians are getting points in overtime for no reason, which is always fun. But we'll get into our very early predictions. Well, very early predictions for the playoffs, if the playoffs started today, of course. We'll talk a bit about one of the big names we didn't speak about last episode, which kind of flew over our heads because the deal wasn't finalized. Last episode, if you didn't listen to that, was about the trade deadline. And yeah, just news around the league for the beginning. Then we'll get into our little predictions towards the end.
Yeah, should be fun. Again, we talked about this before, but not a ton going on in the NHL, considering that the NHL trade deadline has passed. So I think the big amount of news will come towards the offseason around draft time, around free agency, but there's still a little bit to cover, a little bit we can see what's going on.
Yeah, so we'll start with the big name I mentioned last episode. We were talking about all the trades that happened. Of course, Patrick Kane is a New York Ranger. We didn't mention that. We knew that the deal was happening. It just wasn't confirmed. So we were following our trade tracker, and of course, it wasn't there. So Patrick Kane goes to the Rangers. I didn't pull up the package that was sent to Chicago. But the best U.S.-born hockey player goes to the New York Rangers, who already acquired Tarasenko a few weeks prior. And they're absolutely stacked right now. They're playing some good hockey. Their power play is looking obviously dangerous. But yeah, what a move for the Rangers, for that market. For the Eastern Conference, who's already very stacked, to now be getting Patrick Kane it's scary for the teams. Everyone's getting better. So that side of the bracket is going to be very hard to predict, but it's going to be super exciting to watch.
Yeah, I like that move by the Rangers, and I think it was one that was very highly anticipated, right? I think we could somewhat see it coming, considering that Patrick Kane didn't really want to play anywhere else. So you saw it, something that was going to happen, and the paying price. I mean, again, we don't have the package in front of us, but it wasn't very steep. But yeah, so far 3 points in 4 games. He's adjusting to the pace, and I think it's new to him because there's a lot less expectations in Chicago at this point in his career versus being in New York now on Broadway, potentially or not potentially, or a playoff team. So we'll see how quickly he adjusts, and he's very familiar with Panarin, so I'm sure that things will click sooner rather than later. But yeah, I think it's a move you can't ignore, and a move that's obviously bolstering an already stacked top 9 in New York.
Did you have the package with you?
I'll pull it up right now.
Because obviously it's not going to be a steep package, given that there was retention necessary that was needed, clearly, for the Rangers' sake. I'm going to guess that it was 75% retained. Was there a third party involved? That would be my guess.
Yeah, so there was a third party involved. So I'll just read through the trade. So New York acquired Patrick Kane and Cooper Zek, if I'm pronouncing that properly, in exchange for a conditional second rounder, a 4th round pick in 2023. Not going to try and say that name. Vili Sarajarvi, Andy Walensky, and Chicago retains 50%. And Arizona's the third party in all of this, where they receive a 3rd round pick in exchange or for retaining 25% of Kane's contract. So a total of 75%.
Okay. So yeah, not a bad haul for the Hawks, given that it was inevitable, right? The change was inevitable. It was coming. But look, good for the Rangers. It's going to be exciting, like I said before. But yeah, honestly, if I look at the, I'll save it for later when I look at the East. I'll save it for later for what I'm going to say.
Yeah, I know where you're going with that.
But in other news, the Philadelphia Flyers made a GM change mid-season, mid-season after the trade deadline, which to me is ridiculous. The Flyers fired Chuck Fletcher, and Chuck Fletcher, for those who don't know, was in Minnesota before Philly. Then he replaced Ron Hextall in Philly, and he didn't do a great job in Minnesota. Like, he wasn't great. Now he goes to Philly, and he really wasn't great at all when it comes to last season's moves. The year before, he really didn't do anything special with that team, and he gets fired now. For a GM to get fired now, you have to be doing a pretty bad job, right? Because then, like, when you're shaking up the front office mid-season, it's not very fun. And apparently, I read this somewhere that like the Flyers knew. I think it was Ellie Friedman who said it. Um, the Flyers knew they were going to fire him at the end of the season. So like, why would you let him go through a trade deadline if you know you're gonna like if you know you're firing someone? Why would you let him make decisions at the deadline? Like, what did they do at the deadline? Um, oh, they didn't trade JVR. That was the whole situation where he was. Everyone thought he was going to Detroit, and he didn't.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, they replaced him with Danny Briere. Danny Briere, former Sabre, former Flyer. He was in the runnings for the Canadiens GM role. He was the GM of.
It was their ECHL team.
It was the ECHL team. All right,
Yeah,
so he makes a
I'd
pretty
have to.
big jump, and good for him. Apparently, he's very like he's been recommended, for many jobs, and he finally got the role in Philly. I think the Flyers have been waiting to promote him, just like the right time, and I guess this is the perfect time. Um, and they're obviously going to go through a rebuild. It's about time. Like Philly has been just so mid and so lost for a while now. Hopefully, he finds something to get them back on track here, whether it's a good pick in the draft or who knows what he's got in mind.
Yeah, and look, I think you're absolutely right. I think that's the direction that they need to go in. But again, it doesn't really make sense to me, right? You let Chuck Fletcher go through another trade deadline where he was extremely quiet, and it's like, well, you could have had someone there, and you could have made that decision a little bit earlier in advance, and brought in someone who might have, like Danny Briere, who's clearly interested in a rebuild and could have made a few moves that would have helped his cause, would have helped the Flyers' case. But now your trade deadline's over, can't make any moves for the rest of the year. Now you have to wait till the offseason. Now you have a lot of work to do. And it's not to say that there wasn't a lot of work to do already, but there's a lot of things that could have probably been avoided, right?
Mm-hmm. Or taken care of.
There you go.
Yeah. Um. So yeah, that's the news around that. Other than that, there's not much news around the league other than Kaprizov, who got hurt. What is it, like 2 to 3 weeks? He's out.
It was 3 to 4, I believe. So
Oh, 3 to 4. Okay, yeah,
yeah.
significant. And yeah, just the Flames. I want to touch on the Flames quickly before we get into our predictions here. The Flames, I think, look, I'm not going to bring up the stat, but they've been out shooting their opponents for like the past few games, maybe 5 games, I forget what it is, but keep losing. Like they're dropping out. Like honestly, I don't think they're going to make the playoffs at this point. They're losing to Anaheim at home, which is good for the Habs. Anaheim keeps winning, spreading that gap. But yeah, the Flames are in trouble. Again, Brad Treliving did a good job this offseason, but it's got to be their coach, no? It's got to be Daryl Sutter. At some point, you got to say, like, these guys are just not listening to that guy's message, who's a very hardcore guy. Like, you either like him or you don't. He's a bit like Torts.
Mm-hmm.
Toffoli's playing great, but their big guns aren't playing great. I just look at the Flames. They should be a playoff team, but they're not good enough to do any damage, in my opinion. Even if they do make the playoffs, even in the weaker conference,
No, yeah, I agree. And look, truthfully, they've been struggling all season, right? They've cemented their spot in the Pacific in fifth place, right? Fifth place behind an Edmonton team, a Seattle team that's clearly exceeding expectations, and then LA and Vegas. But the truth is that they haven't really moved from that spot because below them you have Vancouver, Anaheim, and San Jose. Those three teams have basically been there all season. So Calgary is not doing it, isn't really doing any damage. And to that point, Mark, I think like you said, their big guns aren't showing up. And the truth is that I don't think they really have big guns. I don't think that they have anyone that can really change the game. I think they expected that from Huberdeau. I think they expected that from Kadri. But the truth is that, put them in a different situation, put them in a different system, and they're not going to produce what they did in years prior. And Markstrom's having one of his worst seasons
Mm-hmm.
from a statistical standpoint, which isn't helping their cause either. Um, But again, yeah, I think this all boils down to two things. One is the lack of created chemistry since the beginning of the season. They haven't gelled, they haven't figured it out whatsoever. And two, I think you got to put a little bit of blame on the coach, right? Like you said, like I think you have to.
Yeah, I was gonna bring up Markstrom's numbers. Now I closed it by accident.
I can
Um,
get it for you if you'd like. He's on the season right now. He's 17, 18, and 8. 17,
mhm.
18, and 8. So below 500. He's a 287 goals against and an 893 save
Yeah, yeah.
percentage.
Okay, yeah, it's disgustingly bad.
And
Um,
and to that point also, Vladar is 12, 6, and 5. So his record is not bad. He's played in 24 games, but also a 295 with an 895 save percentage. So it's just all across the board. The goaltending's not there. It's just not there.
and to think, like in the playoffs, he wasn't that guy, but it's like, oh, maybe he's just having a bit of a slump, like Markstrom. Um, but now it's just getting to a point where he had a horrendous year. I'm trying to see here, like their special units. Let's see, Calgary, like they're 23rd in the league on the power play, which isn't
Which,
amazing, but it's
well,
not the end of the world.
it's 23rd in the league. You're bottom third.
Yeah, but you can make up for it. Let's see their penalty kill.
Of course, but Mark, let's not ignore the fact that if they're 23rd out of 32 teams in the league, and you have the likes of, like we said before, Huberto, Kadri,
Sure.
Lindholm, like that's concerning. Like if you're putting them in the same, let's just say the same tier as Montreal, right? Just
Yeah,
about in that
you're right.
bottom tier. That's kind of ridiculous.
Hmm. They're 12th in penalty kill, which makes sense because Darosetta is very defensively, but again, defensive minded. I mean, but again, you have guys like Huberto who want to score goals and they're playing a defensive system. It just doesn't work.
You know what I think the biggest problem is, Mark, is that I think the guys that they brought in, although I think that they are good players, I think that they're very, very good complementary players. They're not, like I said before, they're not guys that will take over the game. Huberto's had significant seasons, but on an electric power play last year in Florida with an electric center to to put the puck in the back of the net.
Hmm.
Now, I'm not gonna say that Huberto is not a good player and take all the credit away from him. But let's acknowledge the fact that he didn't do it on his own, and neither did Nazem Kadri. He was playing on that. He was a second line center on one of the best teams, or the Stanley Cup championship team last season. He was playing on a second line against second line competition, and was on the first power play with the likes of McKinnon, Makar, Nichushkin, Landeskog. Like, so again, as much as I like these guys, are they really guys that are gonna turn, like, make up for all the losses that Calgary suffered in the offseason? I don't think so.
Yeah, yeah. It's tough. It's tough over there for them. Anyways, but look, I think there's going to be a coaching change at the end of this season, especially if they miss the playoffs. Um, but their GM, I think he's safe. I think he had a good offseason considering what happened.
He did
But
he
yeah,
did his job, right? Like he did what he had to do considering what he
yeah,
lost.
exactly. All right, let's get into this playoff. We're gonna predict, like, it's an early prediction, but we'll get into what we think's gonna happen, and then in a few weeks' time, once the final bracket is set, we'll really go through it and we'll do it again because some positions or some teams might move around.
Yeah,
Um,
I think I correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the West, or actually I think both are pretty much set except for the fact that the Islanders right now as the
yeah,
8th spot in the East are kind of like up in the air. And in the West, I would say the only one that's kind of up in the air is like
Winnipeg.
potentially Winnipeg. But yeah, I think this will basically be what it is. But
Hmm.
anyway, we'll see.
Yeah, you want to start with the West? I feel like the East is more exciting, so we'll start with the West.
Sure.
All right,
You
I'll
want to
give you the
go?
first matchup. We'll go Dallas Edmonton. This is a very good first round matchup.
Yeah, very good. Very, very good. You're looking at McDavid and Draisaitl and the Edmonton team against a Dallas team that has something to prove here.
Hmm.
Um, I'm taking Dallas in that matchup.
Oh
I'm
wow, okay.
taking Dallas, and truthfully, for the fact that I've never believed in Edmonton's bottom six. I've never believed in their depth, and I think Dallas has made sure that they can provide some secondary scoring to the big guys, to the Pavelskis, the Hints, and the Robertson.
Mhm.
And I think Ottinger, we saw him show up last year. I think he's
Yeah.
not afraid of the limelight. And then you have a very, very solid defensive core that's led by one of the best defensive beasts in the league in Miro Heiskanen. So I think that they're in a very good spot. I think that it will be a very close series. I think it's going to be relatively high scoring, but I think Dallas will ultimately take it.
And Ben's having a great season too. Very
There you go.
underratedly well season. Um,
What are your
look,
thoughts on that one?
it's tough because again, if Ottinger plays the way he played last year in the first round, it's Dallas all the way for me. Like it's got to be Dallas. However, the season that McDavid's having, and just mixed up with Draisaitl, I feel like Stuart Skinner can have a good playoff push, and if it's not him, maybe Campbell, even though Campbell's struggling heavily.
Mhm.
Um, but look, just to be different, I'll go Edmonton. But
Sure.
I wouldn't be surprised if it's Dallas. I wouldn't be surprised if they go to 7. You know what? I think it's a complete toss up. It could be a sweep. Who knows? Like I'm really unsure about this one, but it's going to be a good series. I'm going to go Edmonton just to be different.
Great.
It's
The
hard to
one
bet against McDavid.
it is hard to bet against McDavid, but again, I think we have to keep in mind that, again, like I mentioned before, the lack of depth is something that they've
They've
struggled
always
with
struggled
forever,
with. Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And again, like I'm looking at their lines right now, the top 6 is stacked, right? You have Kane, McDavid, Hyman, Nuge, Draisaitl, Yamamoto. Like that's getting you places. It's
Mm-hmm.
the bottom 6 that worries me, and it's the fact that once again, aside from the Matthias Ekholm move, which I think was a solid move, all things considered, they didn't address the. Look, we can say that a top 4 defenseman for Edmonton was the move that they needed to address, but I also do think that they went and got Nick Bjugstad for cheap. Great. But again, Warren Fogle, Bjugstad, Janmark, Devon Shore, McLeod, Derek Ryan, to me, isn't getting it done.
Yeah.
And I think that's the difference maker in this series. And that's why I
Bottom
leave Dallas.
secondary scoring. Yeah, maybe that.
But again, I think, like you said, toss up can go either way. Hard to bet against McDavid for
Yeah.
sure.
All right. Next, Minnesota, Colorado.
I don't think this is a particularly close series, truthfully. I think that if this is the matchup, I'm taking Colorado, and it's not close.
Yeah. Yeah, me too. I'm thinking Colorado. Even though like some people might say like if I'm the Wild, I'm pissed off. I'm being honest. Like you have an okay season. Right now there was the fourth seed, and you get Colorado.
I
Like
mean,
fourth seed isn't amazing. Like it's
but
not
look at
good.
that's literally what the Leafs deal with aside from the fact when they play the Habs. But again, this year, we'll talk about it after, but it's another unfortunate matchup for them. But yeah, absolutely. You're not
Yeah, but
happy to be playing Colorado.
Leafs would be playing the fifth seed. It's even
Yeah,
worse.
that's true. That's true. So they're
It's
playing the
like four
seventh
and
seed and it
five.
happens to be Colorado. That's kind of
Yeah,
ridiculous.
like they're playing the seventh seed, and it's a very good team. But yeah, I'm gonna go Colorado too, um, unless like major injury or unless Flurry can like I don't know what stop everything. Um, but look, I've always seen Minnesota as an okay mediocre team. Um, but just going up against a powerhouse like that, I don't see it. I don't see it happening for them.
And especially we have to look at the fact that Landeskog is going to most likely come back during that playoff run. And
Yeah,
I guess you
but
could
even
say the
without him,
biggest, even without him, I still think they take that series, but it
yeah,
doesn't hurt, obviously. And I think that the biggest problem is the concern at goaltender, right? Like Gorgiev's been playing well, but he hasn't been playing great. And it's
hmm
tough to be a good look, Darcy Kemper got hot at the right time last year, right? We talk about it being a hot goalie and not necessarily the best goalie.
yeah,
But again, Minnesota, like if you're looking at their advanced stats, and it's not even advanced stats, it's the surface stats. Like they literally cannot score without Kaprizov on the ice. And if you can't do it without Kaprizov, then forget about it in the playoffs when you need secondary scoring, right? So
hmm
I think we can both confidently agree on Colorado there.
All right, Vegas, Winnipeg. This is
Another
interesting.
great series. Another great series.
Yeah,
Um,
Quick is playing amazing right now. He's 3-0.
yeah, 3-0 in Vegas.
So that's going to be a question to ask once Logan Thompson comes back. Who gets the start, the Stanley Cup champion or the guy who's never, I guess he hasn't played in the playoffs, right?
Logan Thompson, no.
Because they missed the playoffs last year.
Yep.
And then I'm guessing they're going to get Stone back, or is he completely out?
It's hard to say considering it's the same injury
Yeah.
again. So we'll see. But I would say doubtful.
Look, let's say he doesn't, and let's say they have Quick and Nets, same roster as usual. I'm gonna go Winnipeg.
I'm
R-
I'm fully in agreement there.
Good goaltending, elite offense. That's never in doubt when you talk about Winnipeg. And they're just playing some great. Like recently, they've been in a bit of a slump, but overall this year they've had a great year. And with a new coach, I don't know.
They
I wouldn't even
and
call it an upset. I don't think it's an upset
it's an upset. It's an upset on paper, but I
on
agree. I don't
paper.
think it's an
Yeah,
upset. I don't think it's an upset. When we're just talking about it like this, I think. I mean, I want to hear what you have to say about this, but I think bringing in um the coach that they did, which
Rick Bonus.
is Rick Bonus. Thank you. He's a defensive minded coach. He's worked with that defensive core who has struggled in the past in terms of being maybe a little bit too offensive minded, right? With the Neil Pionk and Nate Schmidt, and they're not necessarily perfect defensively, but again, that firepower offense and that goalie is, I think, what's going to ultimately win them that series. And Vegas to me isn't particularly scary. I'm not.
No,
I don't
you're
know
right.
about what you think about them. Like again, on paper, it's a different story, right? Like I don't find them scary on paper, and then they're still doing very very well. But I don't know.
No,
I'm
when they
not.
played against the Habs a few nights ago, I was like, this team is an expansion team with Jack Eichel. You know what I mean?
That's what it feels like. That's
That's what it
like
feels like.
look. Like let's not forget. Like without Stone in the lineup, it's tough to judge, and the fact that they threw Pacioretty away for free. Like there's just so like again. Now I'm like bringing up what ifs, but
Mhm.
I mean, yeah, no, not definitely not a fan. They have guys that will step up to the plate and be better than just role players. But how long will that last? And will it last against a powerhouse offense in the playoffs? Probably not.
They used to be scarier. And Rick Bonus created an absolute beast on defense this year in Jake and Morrissey.
And in front of
Josh
Hellebuck, who's
Morrissey. Yeah.
and it's actually too bad because I was reading through the defensive like their decor and Morrissey wasn't there because he got hurt last night. Um, so
Yeah.
I don't know. He's doubtful. He's not playing today, which is not a good sign. I mean, back to back, you wouldn't assume that after an injury
Yeah.
he'll play, but definitely not a good sign.
All right. LA Seattle.
To me, that isn't close either.
You take LA?
I take LA.
Yeah, me too. Me too. I just think they're
Seattle.
centered that just Dano, Kopitar, and the young guns, the way they're playing. Like, look at the season Velarde's having. What a season he's having. Then you have Fiala.
Velarde, Fiala, Kempe has 30
Yeah.
plus goals. I mean, it's hard to say no. And like Seattle to me is exactly what you want if you were trying to build a team. And maybe this is going to sound bad, but I'll call it if you wanted to build a team that was very mediocre. I think that they have very good depth from line 1 to 4 and defensive pairings 1 to 3.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not necessarily always exactly what you want. Like you look at when Montreal went far in the playoffs, in when they went to the final against Tampa, they had a very balanced lineup, very very balanced lineup, and look, it got them somewhere. Again, with a few flukes here and there, and a little
Yeah.
bit of. But
It's
again, you
okay.
know what? Who knows? Maybe Seattle can come in and work as a group and work collectively, and there's not a go-to guy. But I think the goaltending scares me too. Grubauer and Martin Jones are just not gonna, in my opinion, not able to get
Yeah.
it done.
Well, and just inexperience in total, right? It's a team that's never been there.
Exactly.
Um, but yeah, I'm gonna go with the Kings in that one.
Yeah.
But I still think it's gonna be a good series. Like I don't think it's gonna be. I don't think LA's gonna manhandle them. But I could see it end in 6.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm not a big fan of Seattle, truthfully. I could see them maybe taking a game. Maybe. And I think LA's very, very strong this year. Like I think, they went out and made their move at the deadline. It was tough to get rid of quick, but they brought in Gavrikov for depth and they brought in Corpusalo, who look, who knows? Throughout his time in Columbus, he wasn't particularly good. He faced a lot of shots, but he wasn't particularly good. But again, like you put him in front of a good defensive minded team with the ability, like, look, Phil Deneau, Anze Kopitar, those are guys that you need in the playoffs. And then
Mm-hmm.
add in all those wingers that are able to score at will. Like it's scary.
And Corpusalo in the bubble played ridiculously good.
Well, that in that one series against
The Leafs.
the Leafs, that was wild.
Yeah. He was crazy good.
Yeah,
But look, if they can come out, like if this bracket stays the same, they could potentially go to the conference finals. They could be that dark horse that goes to the conference finals, in my opinion.
and potentially beat a Winnipeg or Vegas, and then
Yeah,
yeah, because I think once you get to that other side of the bracket, I think it's visibly. I mean, I wouldn't call it easier because like facing Colorado, Minnesota, Edmonton, or Dallas is definitely not easier.
yeah,
But I feel like they'll have gone through a Vegas Winnipeg team potentially that is probably held to the same standard as some of those other teams, right? Like on the
yeah,
other side.
yeah, yeah. Look, who knows?
It'll
Who
be
knows?
fun.
But we'll go to the East now, the exciting one. Um, yeah, we'll start with the Bruins and Islanders. I was gonna say we'll start with the New York teams, but
There's
um,
too many.
exactly, there's too many. But yeah, we'll start with the Atlantic Division, even though the Islanders are there, but that's because of the wild card. But anyways, Boston, New York.
I think New York. I think New York. The Islanders will put up a
I think
very
they take
minimal
one.
fight.
I don't
Yeah,
even honestly. I think it's a sweep. If I'm being honest, I think it's a sweep.
I think with the way that
4-0.
Boston's playing this year, I don't like. I think to even give New York enough credit to give them 2 games would be crazy.
Oh,
You
two
know,
game. Nah, yeah.
like so. I think the Bruins take that one. We know
Yes.
what they are. They're just a beast. They're just a
Boston in
beast.
4.
Yeah, Boston in 4 or 5
Yeah.
max.
Yeah.
Max.
Um.
Yeah, go ahead
All right.
on the next one.
The exciting one, the one I feel like it's been a few years now where we keep talking about it. Toronto, Tampa Bay, a series that went to 7 last year. Tampa Bay, a team who we'll say struggling, but I've had a bit of, John Cooper has been seeing his stars, benching them. Point has been hot. Their stars have still been playing well, but there was clearly something going on. They're not the same team we've seen in prior years, but it's still the Tampa Bay Lightning, and you can't underestimate them. Leafs, Lightning, who do you got?
Would it be mean to say who do you got first?
Like, look,
Like I have my answer, but I kind of want to
okay,
hear yours first.
okay. I like what the Leafs did at the deadline. I like what they did. However, I'm taking the Lightning.
Okay.
I'm still not convinced that their big guys can win a series when it comes down to the final 3 games. They can't close out a series. And will it be the added depth that they added? Will it be the Ryan O'Reilly? If he's healthy, will it be the Nola Chari who gets that game 7 garbage goal? Maybe it might be. However, when it comes down to the big guns on each team, can Matthews, who's having we'll say, mess season on his standards. Marner, we know he's good in the regular season. But can they close it out? I don't think they can. Can Samsonov be that guy versus Vasilevsky, who just gets shutouts in game 7 like it's normal? You're still thinking about it, huh? It's tough because the Leafs, I truly believe that they can do it. I just don't think they will.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. I will take the Leafs to win this series because and strictly because I really really like what they did at the deadline.
Mm-hmm.
And that's truthfully the only reason. Because I think if a guy like Matthews decides to go invisible or a guy like Mitch Marner decides to go invisible, don't get me wrong, you're put at a massive disadvantage, but because of the moves he made, I don't think you're down and out. I think
Oh
that
yeah, yeah, you're right.
so there's a lot more people to count on. Now, I'm not saying that you necessarily want to count on. You don't necessarily want to be counting on Sam Lafferty and Nola Chari and Kale Yarncroke. But if you need to, you could. And I think that they bolstered their defensive core. They bolstered the defensive core. And I think that they made it, and we talked about this on last episode. They became tougher to play against. And I think that's what they've been missing forever, because every time they go into a first round, they're every team has thrown them around. And I don't think that any team can do that anymore. I
You
don't think
like
so.
their defense?
When I say I like it because of their toughness. I like it because of,
Okay.
like, I don't think that they're A1 defensively. But
Mhm.
I think that when it comes down to the playoffs, and they're going to need to tighten up, I think that those guys those big bodies, the McCabe, the Giordano, the Lilgren, the Brody. Again, I
They
don't
got
love them
Shen, no?
offensively. Shen now, like, they have an 8-man rotation back there.
Yeah.
Like, they have a lot of defensemen. But I don't know. I think that this will be the year that they get it done. And I think people have been saying this for years. But I'm going back to the moves that Kyle Dubas made at the deadline, and I'm gonna award them the series.
Okay. No, it's very fair. Really it's a toss up, and I think Toronto, like if you watch last year's series, the team Toronto has this year, if they play in that series, they win, in my opinion. I don't know. I just it's hard to choose something when it just never happens.
100%.
You know what I
100%.
mean? And it's just, and look, you don't want to base yourself on past events because it's a different team. But when you watch the stars of that team just never perform when it counts.
But I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Like, my question is that I think, and look, we joke around because the truth is that they've never done it. But at one point, it will have to happen. It will. And as long as
Hmm.
a guy like Austin Matthews and Mitch Marner are a Toronto Maple Leaf, or are Toronto Maple Leafs. And let's assume, look, a lot of people are preaching Matthews is going to leave. Is he really? Like, we like to joke around, he's going to
Hmm.
Arizona. Is he really? Like, I don't think that that's realistic. I think
Yeah.
that Dubas, one of the benefits of him being buddy with most of the players is the fact that contract negotiations are a lot easier for both sides. And I think that ultimately, if Austin Matthews wants $12.5 million, $13 million, or $15 million once the cap rises, that money will be put into his hands by that organization. So at one point or another, they're going to have to come through and win a series. Is it this year? I don't know. I'm going to go with yes, but I think sooner rather than later, they're going to have to figure it out. And to me, it might be this year. It might, because I'm not convinced. I'm not fully
Yeah.
convinced. I'm not fully convinced.
Look, they could clearly do it. Like, I think they can. And if they don't, it won't be Cal Dubas doing that Matthews negotiation.
No, he's
He's
done, and
gone.
he made that very clear at the deadline, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that guy was on, probably had eight phones on at once. It's
Like,
wild.
I think it would even come to the point where he would just resign.
But I have an even bigger question. Sorry, I'm looking at the Leafs lines, and on their third line right wing, they have Justin Hull. What's going on there? Like,
Well,
let's go.
why?
And they don't have him on defense. Like, what's going? Like,
Well, I know he's gonna be like that. He's the odd man out on defense. I know he is.
maybe they're
But
just
why is
putting
he
him
on
there
the
as
right
a
wing?
placeholder. I don't know. That's so
Yeah,
strange. Whatever.
might be a little glitch in the system.
Yeah.
All right.
Anyway, that's a fun one though.
Yeah, it's gonna be a fun one as usual. Carolina, Pittsburgh.
Carolina for me. Like, I mean, you're looking at a team in Pittsburgh that's not even guaranteed to make the playoffs. It's a very
Yeah.
tight race for that wild card in the East. So, not guaranteed to even have that spot. I think that the truth is that any team that's going to play Pittsburgh out of the options as of right now are not really going to put up much of a fight against Carolina. And what I thought was funny is that looking at the standings, right? If I just pull them up quickly, sorry, because I don't have them here. But if you look at the wild card, the one team that I think that if they do make the playoffs could actually put up a fight, because right now it's Pittsburgh, right? And the
Mhm.
Isles are playing Boston. But the other teams that are Florida, Washington, Ottawa, and Buffalo. I think the actual team that can put up a fight is Ottawa. If. Like, I don't think Pittsburgh stands a chance. I don't think Florida stands a chance, and I don't think Washington stands a chance. And those are the three teams that are like right there. Like Pittsburgh has that spot right now. Florida has 73 points, so 3 points out. Washington has 71, they're 5 points out. Ottawa has 70, Buffalo 69.
Yeah,
But
it's a good argument.
like even
Washington, no
Buffalo,
chance.
what about Buffalo? I'd love to see that.
I'd love to see them in the playoffs. I think they'd get
Wow.
manhandled by Carolina, though.
Yeah, I think realistically, like I'm underestimating Carolina's power. But
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
I don't. Yeah, go ahead.
Carolina for me,
Oh yeah, it's not
we're
close.
going through. It's not close. It's not close. That metropolitan side of the bracket is going to be very interesting. We always talk about the Atlantic, which again, it's always interesting too. But the Metro's going to be very interesting, given the amount of offensive talent there is on all these teams.
Mm-hmm.
And now we get to the last matchup, which is the Battle of New York. Well, the Battle of New York. I keep excluding the Islanders who are playing the Bruins, but
Battle of the state.
the Battle of the State, yeah, even though it's not the same state, the
Yeah,
Battle
it's
of
like
the
whatever. It's
what do
like
they
right
call
there.
that?
I don't
What?
know.
Yeah, I'm not
State
sure what they call
because
that.
there's a state of New York,
Because the
and
Battle
then
of New York,
there's
I guess, is Islanders and Rangers, and then New Jersey is just there. You know?
they're literally right across the water, which is so funny too. But
Yeah. Anyways, New Jersey, New York. Um, New Jersey's been playing amazing hockey this year. Amazing.
there's no doubt.
But but when you haven't made the playoffs in a certain amount of years, and it's a completely new team that's coming into this playoff push, I think experience plays a large role in the playoffs, and I just don't think they have, whether it's the grit, whether it's the leadership, whether it's, like I said, the experience. I don't think they have what it takes to beat not only a team that's been there recently, but a powerhouse in the Rangers, from offense to defense to goaltending.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. I definitely
You
agree
know?
with you there. And the truth is that this is the comment that I'll make on this series, and I'm taking the Rangers as well. But I don't think the New Jersey Devils will lose this series because of a lack of skill. I think they'll lose
Yeah,
it because of a lack. And I think this is kind of what you were like. This is what you said basically, but
yeah.
it's because not because it's a lack of skill, but a lack of experience. And
Mm-hmm.
look, they're really skilled, right? You go out and make a move for Timo Meyer. Now you have Timo Meyer, Dawson Mercer, Heishier, Jack Hughes. Like you're skilled. You're there,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
they're not built to win a series, especially against a team that is built to win a series like this. Like their four lines are actually probably the model that you would want for a playoff team. You
Mm-hmm.
have a scoring line, you have a defensive line, you have a checking line, and you have the fourth line grinders. Like it's doesn't get any better. Defensively, they're so tough to play against. And if Shesterkin gets on his game and he's tough to beat, like what else?
What can you do?
What can you do?
Do you want to continue the bracket?
Sure, why not? We won't dissect it as much, but we'll just
No.
go through it. So you want to go back to the West?
Yeah. So you had Dallas, Colorado.
Correct. Yeah, and you had Edmonton, Colorado.
Yeah. So I think it's safe to say Colorado goes through, right?
I think so. I
Yeah.
think to be honest, Dallas would put up a very good fight.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Edmonton would too. I don't even think it's particularly obvious, but
Man, that's a tough one. Dallas, Edmonton. The more you
yeah, it
think of
really
it, the
is.
more it gets difficult to choose. Yeah, I
Yeah,
don't know.
I
I
wonder.
don't know,
I
man.
mean, look, for me, I think you know what? You know what? I no. I think if my prediction is correct and Dallas beats Edmonton, I would take Dallas over Colorado.
Okay. Again, it comes down to goaltending.
Look, if
I
that's what
don't
it
know,
comes down
man.
to, I'm taking Ottinger
Oh,
all
100%.
the way.
100%. But yeah, it's tough. It's tough. Yeah, I'll say Colorado makes it out of that side of the bracket.
Okay, that's fair. So you have Colorado, I have Dallas. Now we move to the other side of the bracket. Now
Yeah.
we both agreed on Winnipeg and we both agreed on LA. So we can just move on as one. LA, Winnipeg, who do you got?
I'm gonna go Winnipeg.
Okay.
Even though I said like 10 minutes ago that LA could go to the conference finals, I don't see how they I don't know. I just like Winnipeg this year. I just think they could do it.
That's fair. I think I would still take LA, or still, I mean, I would take LA in this case.
Yeah.
Again, like very, very even. I just think in the playoffs, I will take LA.
Yeah.
I like Winnipeg's offense and I like LA's offense, but what I like about LA's offense is the fact that they have guys that are not defensive liabilities.
Yeah.
Like I don't think you can really bank too much on like a guy like Wheeler and Ehlers to
And Connor.
shut it down. Yeah, and like I like the fact that you have Arvidsson, you have Lazat, you have Deno, you have like those guys like the
Kopitar.
Iafollos, Kopitar, like those guys are for real in my
Mhm.
opinion. So I don't know. Yeah, I'll take LA. But so for you, you have Colorado versus Winnipeg, and I have Dallas versus LA.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Damn. Interesting.
It's completely different. So you want to go first for your prediction for Colorado, Winnipeg?
Yeah. I'm gonna go damn.
I just wanted to interrupt you here. Like, don't you find it crazy that first of all, these aren't even set in stone matchups, but they're great matchups. But it's
Yeah.
just so funny to like how much thought we put into it, considering like we're still what about 20 games out? Less
It's
now?
yeah. It's honestly it's the Dallas Edmonton series that's throwing me off. Because I think if Dallas was on the bottom side of that bracket, they're clear.
If they're yeah.
Like if they're
Yeah.
with that Vegas, Winnipeg, LA, Seattle, they're clear. Right?
Maybe I'm not giving Edmonton enough credit, but again, it's
I
tough.
don't think I'm giving Dallas enough credit. Like I think you can be completely right on this Dallas bet. They can go to the Stanley Cup Finals for all we know.
I think the truth is not to well, I'll give my prediction now. Like Dallas, LA, I'm taking Dallas.
Yeah, I would take Dallas
So
too for on your side, but now I don't think Winnipeg, Winnipeg can go to the Stanley Cup Finals.
look, it's
And
far
can
it's
Colorado
far
do it
from
again? I don't know. I'm gonna go Colorado,
but look, I mean you can't
even though
discount
I don't love
the
it. I don't
champs.
love
You
it.
can't, I know what you feel. I know what
I
you
don't
feel.
love. I don't see like if I look at this, I go, I don't see Colorado making it out of the West. But the way I built this bracket, they do in my eyes.
Mhm.
But I don't see Georgiev bringing this team to the Stanley Cup Finals.
But a lot of people said that about Darcy Kemper last year,
Yeah,
right?
you're right. You're right.
So like the fact that he was in Arizona facing tons of shots and now he's facing 15 to 20 shots a game but he did it.
Yeah. Look,
And they're practically the same team, right?
yeah, yeah. Look,
Who they lose?
it's more
That's
injuries. It's injuries and the not being able to play together the whole year. They haven't had the team together the entire year, so it's just kind of like they're off chemistry wise. That's
and
what scares me the most.
it's so funny because on paper they don't even look that great.
That's the thing, right?
But again, like McKinnon, Rantanen, and Landeskog, assuming Landeskog plays, like there's your staple. Then you have the guys like Lehkonen, Nichushkin, Rodriguez, like Newhook. That's your second tier. And then you have like their bottom six is just like it's a lot of it feels like at least on paper like a lot of meh. But let's not forget that most of these guys have been there before. Like they've won the cup. Cogliano's won
Yeah,
the cup. Logan O'Connor's won the cup. Nieto won the cup. Lars Eller won a cup. It was in Washington, but he won a cup. JT Compher won a cup. Like, there's like experience and success speaks volume. And I think that in this case, like you're second guessing, and I don't blame you for second guessing, but I think that like it's far from out of reach for Colorado to be back in the Stanley Cup final.
you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna make this exciting.
Okay. Should we get a drum roll effect in here? Like what's going on?
So I said Edmonton, Colorado in the second round.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say Edmonton goes through, faces Winnipeg in the conference final, an all Canadian Western Conference final,
That's crazy.
and then
That would be so great for Canadian hockey.
for Canadian hockey, imagine. Um, you see, I don't honestly, I don't even know.
No, I think you're good to take Colorado there. If you have Colorado Edmonton, here's my thing. If you have Colorado Edmonton, I like Colorado. If you have Dallas Colorado, I think you have a different story. And I know that you originally took Edmonton over Dallas, but again, it comes down
That's
to
a
like,
toss
look,
up. Look, I don't know.
we saw Edmonton, Colorado last year, right? And if that's what you have, you saw Colorado like it wasn't that much of an
A
effort.
contest.
It wasn't, yeah, exactly. Like it wasn't.
Okay, so you know what? Yeah, Colorado. I'll put them in the Stanley Cup Finals, even though I'm not
Colorado Stanley
sold.
Cup Finals.
I'm not sold at all.
Fair enough. And I'm gonna take Dallas in the Stanley Cup
Mhm.
Final on the West. In the West.
All right, now in the East.
Here we go. Here we go.
I never thought I was gonna struggle that much with the West. I thought it was gonna be the East that I was gonna struggle with the most.
Yeah, but you know what? It's sometimes like the
Yeah.
like the fact that there's a lot of mediocre team. Like they're not mediocre, but they're not as big of a powerhouse as like the East teams, right? So
Yeah.
it's a lot closer.
Yeah.
All right, what are we thinking?
I'm gonna do Boston, Tampa. Well, that's what we have. We have Boston, Tampa.
Well, I have Boston, Toronto,
Oh,
but
you have Boston, Toronto. It's true.
yeah, but it's fine. Go ahead. Boston, Tampa, who are you taking?
Boston, Tampa.
That's
I have
tough.
Boston. No, I have Boston easily.
Really?
No matter who they
Like,
play,
see,
Toronto, Tampa Bay, I have them literally
yeah,
steamrolling them.
yeah, Boston, Toronto. I'm taking Boston, but I don't know if it'll be easy. I don't know if it will be easy, regardless of if it's Tampa or Toronto.
It's
But
in six, just like
okay.
break a sweat, you know.
I'll take
And
Boston
then
there too. Yeah,
and then coming out of the bottom side, I have the New York Rangers beating the Hurricanes.
I love that. I love that a lot because honestly, I not the biggest Carolina fan, specifically because of the fact that I think that I'll sound the alarms here. I think that they might be truthfully fraudulent. Like, I don't know. I'm not a
Yeah, they may be a bit.
massive fan. Like, but you know what? Can we talk about that for a second? Because the truth is that although I'm calling them fraudulent, they do have one of the best decors in the league,
Mhm.
if not the best, right? Like Slavin, Burns, Pesci, Gossespear. I'm missing a couple names, and I'll pull them up right now because I think that they're
She's said Slavin.
Slavin, yeah, for sure. I said Brady Shea and Calvin Dahan right now. Like, I just think that I'm not giving them enough credit because I think defensively, like so there's two teams this year that have given up the least amount of goals, one being Boston, two being Carolina. So if we're gonna attribute points to defense here, you got to give Carolina at least some sort of pull. Like, you got to give them something.
Mm-hmm.
But I do agree with you on that one. I do think New York is built for it. Like, it's their team top to bottom is built for it. So I will take New York versus Boston in the Eastern Conference Final. So we're
Who
on
do
the
you
same
have one of
page
the
there.
final?
I'll take Boston.
I'm gonna take New York.
Wow.
I think Boston finally breaks.
Okay. That's interesting. Can you give me some insight on that one?
I just think the Rangers, that team, like, look again, it's one story looking at a team on paper, and it's one story looking at a team and how they play. And you look at the Bruins, and they're mean, they're quick, they can score, top to bottom, they're elite. But I don't know. I just think the Rangers can what's the word? Outskill them in some sort of way. Shesterkin pulls out a miracle. And once you start the playoffs, everything's brand new. You know, you forget about the regular season. And I think the Bruins are gonna have the President's Trophy curse. And they'll lose in the conference finals.
That's fair.
And then I have the Rangers winning the cup.
Rangers beating Colorado.
Yeah.
I think for
Again,
me,
the East to me is all, it's a whole blender over there. It could be any of them going to the finals for me.
Except for Pittsburgh or the Islanders, but yeah.
No, the West. Did I say the East?
You said the East, but yeah.
Sorry, the West. To me is a blunder. Absolute blunder. Except for Minnesota and Seattle.
Right.
And maybe LA.
You know, the point that I was going to make about the Rangers and the case for them in the Eastern Conference Final is the fact that they've been there before. And I think that you could also say the same thing about Boston, but New York as a unit has basically been there, was there last year, and they were successful. They lost to Tampa. They got outplayed. They got outplayed by a great Tampa team, but they got to that point with the identical units, or sorry, the same team aside from Tarasenko and Kane, which doesn't hurt to add two guys that have a lot of playoff experience too. So I think that's the case for the Rangers in a series against
But the
Boston in the
Bruins,
Eastern Conference Finals.
the Bruins have been there though.
They've been there, but look at their team. Like, yeah, I guess you could say that
Oh,
their
you're saying it's
core
a
has been
different
there.
team.
Like,
Yeah.
I'm just saying the fact that the Rangers were literally there a year ago at this time with the same exact team. Like like Boston has always been shuffling. Like now you're adding Orlov. You had Hampus for last year's run. Like now
Different
you're adding
goaltending.
Look, and exactly. And I'm not saying that it hurt them in any case, the fact that they're not the same unit. But what I am saying is that chemistry and experience go a long way. And I think that for the Rangers, in that case, that's for me like the reason that I would take the Rangers, but I'm not. I'm taking
The
like I
Bruins.
feel like I just preach for the Rangers just to pick the Bruins, but I'm picking the Bruins.
No, but 100%. Your side of the bracket, Bruins, Dallas. That could 100% happen.
I and
That's a
and I
very
would
good prediction.
and I would take Boston, I think.
Oh no, I would take
Right?
Boston 100%.
Like
Yeah,
but I think it would be a good series. I do. If that were the case.
yeah,
Okay, so hold on. Let's just recap. You have Colorado
yeah,
against the Rangers in the
yeah,
Stanley Cup final, and you have the Rangers winning.
yeah,
Cool. I have Dallas versus Boston and Boston winning the cup, and they
yeah.
break the President's Trophy curse.
I wonder who the last thing to do it was,
Let's see.
because I think the only reason why
Can
it's
you
a curse
guess?
is the
If you had to
Capitals.
guess?
If I had to guess, who won the President's Trophy last year? Was it
It
Colorado?
was no, it's Florida.
Florida?
How crazy is that?
Damn. Who I'm gonna guess the Pittsburgh Penguins.
You have two more guesses.
Okay. Um, that broke it and won the cup, right?
That broke it and won the cup.
I
Sorry,
just meant the final.
last year I made a mistake. The Panthers finished. Oh no, they did. They did. They won the President's Trophy. Yeah. So wait, what'd you say? Sorry.
Like that they won the cup. They won the President's Trophy and the cup.
Correct. Yeah. Who's the
Yeah.
last team to do it?
Okay, so you said it wasn't. Oh, Tampa.
No. One more guess.
The Bruins, the Kings.
No. That's four guesses. No, it was the Blackhawks in 2012, 2013.
Oh, okay.
But that's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
It's been 10 years since the last team that won. It only makes sense 10 years later. And then another 10 years goes by and no President's Trophy
You
winner
think?
and no Stanley Cup winner.
Well, who knows?
I don't know. Yeah, but Chicago in 2012, 2013.
Interesting.
And that was the lockout season too. That was a lockout short season too.
No,
So
it
does
doesn't
it really
count.
count? Does it really
No.
count?
Asterix.
That was fun though.
Yeah, it was fun. We'll talk quickly about the Canadians. Let me open this up here. Who lost to the Devils last night?
Lost 6 in a row, despite picking up points, but lost 6 in a row.
Lost 6 in a row, but again, these points are just. If you're a fan of the Bedard race, are killers. But what it does prove is that the Canadians can take it to high-level teams, and they can play with heart. Obviously, they don't have the skill to close out these games, but Marty St. Louis is clearly building a team that can go up against any team, no matter who's on the ice, which I think is a very, very bright sign. Look, Carolina in shootout, Rangers in shootout. That Zibanejad shootout goal was disgusting, by the way. Vegas regulation loss, Anaheim regulation loss, Kings regulation loss. So that California trip, remember we were talking about it weeks ago? The California trip, blah, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they went horribly for them.
Yeah.
San Jose, they won the first game, but anyways. Now they go up against Colorado, Pittsburgh, Florida, Tampa, Boston, and then Columbus, which is kind of a joke. But They got some hefty games coming up. I don't see it ending too well unless Belzil keeps playing like Gretzky.
Over half a point per game on that guy.
Guy's nuts, eh? 3 goals in 3 games. Is that what he's at?
3 goals in 3 games, yes. And just to boot there, he also has 10 points in 20 games. So yeah, half a point per game.
Damn.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll do our
I
predictions
wanna
here. Oh yeah.
before we go into the predictions, I just wanted to ask you a quick question.
Go ahead.
We at the beginning of the season, we went through teams that we thought would finish. We named a list of teams, and obviously I can't remember it off the top of my head, but we listed a list of teams that would finish below Montreal in the standings.
Yeah.
And I think we concluded that it was about 5 or 6. So right now we're actually kind of like, I don't know if the teams are right, but we're in that. I think we're in the ballpark. Like I think we.
I don't think we would have put Columbus below them. Like I don't think I would have.
I don't think I did either because I thought that they were going to actually be way better than they did. But I think one of the teams that we said would
Anaheim.
do worse, I think ended up being better anyway. So I think it kind of like leveled out.
Okay.
But my question to you really, and again, like obviously anything is possible, but are you optimistic? And I guess like it might be just fake optimism, but is there any part of you that's optimistic about potentially landing Connor Bedard?
I think the Canadians, first of all, I think Arizona's going to leapfrog the Canadians.
I agree.
So
and I actually think Anaheim will too, potentially.
And if Anaheim is able to leapfrog the Canadians, I think there's a very, very, very solid chance they can at least fall in the top 3, 100%. But they can get a top 2 pick in this year's draft. And I think it's crucially important for them to finish 29th in the league. Chicago, there's no chance they leapfrog the Canadians.
No, 8 points right now. No.
San Jose, unless they go on a crazy run, but that's very unlikely. To me, if they can do, even Anaheim, I don't think they will, but if they can, it's super important. Super important because everyone's freaking out about who they're going to draft. Well, it's kind of easy if you know you're picking the top 2. But that Florida pick, I think it's going to be nothing. It's not going to move.
Like you think, but I still think it might be a lottery pick. Potential to be a lottery pick. They're only sitting at 17th, right? What's the cutoff?
Yeah, but you can only jump up 10 spots.
No, I understand, but I'm just saying, like, it's still like it would still be like
it'll still be a good pick. Yeah. It's like I remember a few weeks ago we were saying, oh my god, they might get 2 top 3 picks. No, it's not gonna happen.
Yeah, no chance.
Not gonna happen. But yeah, Montreal, I think they can. At least jump in the top 3 in the lottery. Who knows?
But I don't. Will they jump into the top? Well, here's the thing: is if
I don't like the spot they're in right now. I don't like it.
No,
You gotta lose a bit more because now you're seeing a spot where you're probably not gonna land the top 2 pick, but you're not like competitive. You're just like losing for no reason. And collecting points for no reason. Like these shootout, yes, they're entertaining. Yes, the overtimes are cool. But I'd much prefer a very entertaining regulation loss than 100%. Losing and gaining points for no reason.
Like last night, right? Like who cares? Like I mean, it wasn't that entertaining, but 3-1. Call it a day, chalk it up, and just like no points. No points awarded.
Like obviously you want morale to be somewhat elevated. But we're getting to a point here where the main core pieces aren't even on the ice.
Right. And I'll say one thing now, and I guess this is kind of agreeing with what you said before and kind of just putting it all into one here. If Montreal doesn't move down, if Montreal doesn't move down to at least 29th, so meaning Arizona and Anaheim would jump Montreal, or actually any team for that matter would jump, 2 teams would jump Montreal, and Montreal would end up in 29th. I don't think they have a chance at landing Bedard. Point blank, done.
Well, it's percentages.
Right.
Of course they have a chance.
Of course they have a chance, but I think that, I don't know. I just don't.
Well, the Connor McDavid draft, where were the Oilers sitting at?
I don't even remember, but it wasn't
4th
great.
Best odds.
Yeah. Imagine.
I'm just saying.
I know. I just think that it seems very unlikely
to me, it's going to be Columbus. Whoever finishes last is going to get that pick, in my opinion.
That's what I see too.
It's what, a 25% chance if you accumulate all the other. I think it's 25. Yeah, 25. If you go on Tankathon, shout out Tankathon, great website.
I just wanted to check one thing. NHL lottery is June 28th. So
Wow, that's really late.
it feels really late, eh? Oh no, sorry, that's the draft.
Yeah, okay.
I was like, wow, that's
I was
really.
like, wow, when's the draft gonna be? September?
They probably don't have. They probably don't have the lottery
It's
like
usually in
date
the
yet.
first round of the playoffs.
Oh, so that's actually soon-ish.
Yeah.
That's fun.
Yep. Yeah, the end of the regular season is April 13th, last game of the season for the Canadians.
Coming up. It's coming up.
It's literally a month.
Yeah, it's wild.
Tomorrow's the 13th. All right, Colorado, Montreal tomorrow night, Bell Center. What do you see happening? Except the Belzil goal, it's kind of a given. Put the house on that happening.
What do I see happening? Hold on, I'm just looking into my crystal ball. Give me a second.
All right, let me know what it
Um,
says.
I don't know. I'm feeling a Habs loss, but I'm feeling a weirdly big game from Remy. From Rem.
Remy. I've never heard someone call him Remy.
Yeah.
Even producer shaking his head over here.
Remethy. No, Rem. I'm feeling a Habs 4-2 loss, even 5-2. But
Wow.
I'm feeling a goal and an assist from Rem.
Rem.
I don't know. It just feels like one of those, like it's going to be a Monday night. Rem, I associate Rem with Mondays, not in a bad way, but it's just because it just feels like it's his day to produce. I don't know.
It's a
I don't know.
very, very specific.
March. I'm now attributing Rem Pitlick Day to March 13th.
It'd be funny if it's his birthday tomorrow.
I'm going to check because if it is, wow.
By 6:49 if it is.
Rem Pitlick birthday. Closer than I thought. April 2nd.
Okay, not bad.
Yeah,
Not bad.
we're close.
Anyway. I don't know what I'm gonna say here. I'm probably gonna go with a 3-1 Colorado win.
Okay, low scoring affair ish.
Yeah, I'm gonna say that the one goal is scored by Mike Matheson on the power play. Mike Matheson power play goal, 3-1 loss. And I'm also gonna add that
don't add too many legs to this parlay.
I'm gonna say that the Colorado Avalanche get 45 shots on net.
And who's in nets for the Habs? Like assuming Allen's gonna make 42 saves tomorrow night.
And
so
lose.
42 save loss from Jake Allen with a Matheson goal and a 3-1 loss. And I have Montreal losing 5-2 and 2 points, a goal and an assist from Rem Pitlick.
Yeah. On Rem Pitlick Day.
Wow, that's kind of crazy. See, I knew there was something about March 13th.
What is it?
Pazzetta's birthday.
Oh.
I knew it. It's just.
So you're gonna change it to Pez scoring?
I'll give Pez an apple, but that's about it.
Nah, I won't give him anything.
Not even on his birthday? Like, what's he turning here? He's turning 25.
25?
Born in 1998.
I would have guessed. I think it's the hair that makes him look older.
It's also that stash, too. It's like giving me John Merrill vibes.
John Merrill, the GOAT, man. I miss that guy.
Love that guy. Yeah. Okay. Rapid fire, quick question.
Yeah.
Hold on. Give me a sec. Rapid fire. Michael Pezzetta has played in Sudbury. He's played in Sarnia. He's played in Laval, and he's played in Montreal and in the ECHL with the Maine Mariners. What was his highest point total season?
I'm gonna say, jeez, Sarnia.
And how many points?
How many games did he play?
Well, you were wrong anyway. It was in
Okay.
Sudbury. The most points he had was in Sarnia. 35 games played. How many points?
12.
31. Almost point per
So, I'm
game.
so sorry, Michael. I'm
I don't
so
know why.
sorry. That was very
12.
rapid fire. That was out of left field.
Yeah,
Jeez.
sorry. I don't know.
How'd you even think of that?
I don't know. I was just looking at his stash and his hair, and I was just like
All right.
curious. So I made you guess.
All right, that was fun. Sorry again for saying 12 points or whatever I said,
Yeah,
but
it's a knock on him for sure.
hey, he's a beauty though. It's okay.
Mhm.
All right, anyways, we'll wrap it up here. We thank you so much for tuning in. Hopefully, I'm saying this before it edits. Hopefully, my audio is okay. I know the past few episodes, I apologize. On my end, the audio has been kind of iffy. So for those listening and going, why does it sound so bad? I apologize. Hopefully, it's fixed for this episode. But look, we'll do our best to try and fix that out or fix
Yep,
it,
exactly.
figure that out and fix it. Anyways, thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll catch you guys next time.
Thanks a lot, guys. Take care and stay safe.